Welcome in, everyone, on this Friday. I'm Sashem, Brey.
And I'm Christina Williams. We are here with our new streaming exclusive. It's called Aging Untold Extra, and we're going to focus on a lot of stories out there impacting not only seniors here at home and across the country, but other people as they age as well.
So join us each week. We're going to dive deeper into the conversations you hear throughout the week on Aging Untold. We're talking about Americans growing older, the people who are helping them. We want to provide actual resources, solutions that help an entire family, diving deep into the topics that impact aging.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of conversations here, and we're going to take some of the things that you see throughout the week and then let you know what local resources are available. We're bringing in our local experts, and we're going to hear stories out there that also pay tribute to the enduring spirit of our seniors. We heard a few of those this week, and it was really fun to see everything from the power of board games,
yes,
to new hobbies out there. There's a lot happening, and it's kind of fun to see that, and we would love to tell your stories right here on Aging Untold Extra.
The best thing about this is it's going to be an interactive experience, and we'll talk more about that here a little bit later. But this is about us working with you, answering your questions, hearing what you want to learn more about, and then us going out there and trying to get those answers for you.
And it's going to be a fun time, and I think that's the most important part, right? We want this to be something that you decide what you'd like to talk about. So every week we're going to be here with you answering those questions and really giving you resources that you can actually tangibly use here at home.
We want this to be a relaxed conversation between you and us, the experts that we bring in to help us tell these stories for you and get a real picture of your real life experience and what you want to know more about.
We are very excited that you're here. Aging Untold Extra starts right now.
Aging Untold Extra, sponsored by Area Office on Aging of Northwest Ohio.
A big concern for seniors and their caregivers: online scams. You hear us covering reports almost weekly about people who fall victim to these in one form or another right here at home.
Yeah, and they're scams that target people through emails or websites, and unfortunately, they're just part of our daily lives. And it's not just older people who fall for them, but they are certainly a very purposeful target.
Absolutely. I talked with Lane Montz with the Better Business Bureau about some of the warnings that you'll say, I've heard a million times, but truly they can never be shared too often because people are still falling for these scams.
I think we know from the news cycle and from everyday life that the pace of technology is really moving at light speed now. A few years ago, we would talk about how you could spot an imposter website, and there were some pretty obvious ways: misspelled words, things that didn't look quite right. Just in the last couple of years, technology has really improved, and I can't stress this enough. The sophistication of the groups perpetrating these frauds, they are multinational corporations in most cases. They're not legitimate, they're criminal organizations, but they're just as sophisticated as real companies are.
That's a very important point to note, because it's not, we joke about the stereotype of a hooded person kind of working in a dark room. I mean, these are businesses, like you say.
Yeah, so, if you go back to the frontier days, there were the traveling medicine shows selling, tonic that would do whatever you needed it to do, it would do. So scams are nothing new, and the psychology of scams is the same as it has been for hundreds or probably thousands of years. Find a vulnerable population, create a need, create a sense of urgency, and then psychology will take over and help you close some of those deals. That hasn't changed at all, Sashem. The psychology is the same. What has changed, what we have to reckon with in the modern era, is technology has made it so that the scammers, instead of reaching a small frontier town with 112 people, they can now reach 112 million people with technology. So they're getting a lot more at-bats, and when you get more at-bats, you eventually get more hits. Then that's what they're aiming for.
And sometimes the case, and you had one that we spoke about that I would love for you to share with our viewers, about a gentleman who was doing something simple, looking for something to purchase online, a vehicle in this case. Tell us about this. This is a real life case, and I sometimes think those really help for a message to land here.
This person was shopping for the truck. They came across what appeared to be a website of a small dealership selling vehicles. The price was really good, and if you ever have to look for used trucks on the, they're hard to find. Good used trucks are in high demand. Well, this price was really strong, and so he reached out, and they got a down payment from him to, quote, hold the vehicle. Well, what you have to know is this was a completely fake website. They just grabbed pictures of desirable truck models and car models, put them on the website to get people to take action. And then everything from then on was controlled by the scammer. And so this gentleman lost several $1,000s, reached out to us. It took like 2 hours of conversation on the phone to try to get the point through that this was a fraudulent transaction. He was almost certainly not going to get the money back, sadly. And even after all that, he asked if we would accompany him to the lot to get the truck. It was really hard for him to understand that you could create a completely fake transaction. There's no car. There's no truck. That's just all fake. Even after all that conversation, he thought he could still go up and buy the truck legitimately, like it was at a car lot. And it was just very hard for this person to understand. And it's kind of like me trying to play any of my kids' video games. I am so out of the loop that I don't know if I would ever be able to catch up on those. So I don't try anymore. But it is really compelling, and it creates a sense of reality in the victim's mind that is hard to undo. And that is the goal of the scammers. That's what happens with spoof sites. So you got to be careful of those.
And you mentioned hard to get money back. Sometimes people might say, oh, I sent it, but can I just cancel that? I mean, that is nearly impossible once you have spent money like that, sending it to who knows where.
Yeah, it depends on how you sent it and what kind of features your bank has. A lot of times, though, they ask you to send it through Zelle or I can't remember the name of the other one, Cash App.
Okay.
And there are some other what they call peer-to-peer payment systems that you can do over your phone, and they send money using the banking system, but without the same protections traditional banking transactions have. And when you send money that way, if you Zelle money to somebody, you're not getting that money back unless that person is willing to send it back. And of course, with the scammers, that's not going to happen.
What can, let's say, a caregiver do? You still have a parent or a grandparent living independently or working online, making purchases and so forth. How can we support our parents, our grandparents, anybody that we know, helping them deal with this or navigate this? Because they still want to buy things. They still want to maybe shop online, or it's easier than leaving the house a lot of times for mobility reasons. What can we do?
No, there's no group of people immune to online scams or technology-based scams. There's nobody immune. But one of the reasons that older people might get, first of all, they're targeted more. So that's a big part. They're targeted more because they have more wealth and because they're more isolated. And that's what your question talks about or touches on. They don't always have as wide of a social circle. And they don't have as big of a group of support network to check with. So if you're a caregiver or you're part of a support network, just constant reinforcement and awareness and education that these scams exist, and just, I would say, drive it into anybody's mind, including an older person, that you don't need to finish or even start a transaction online. If you get something in the email or you get a link on your phone that wants to take you to somewhere online and you didn't start that transaction, then you should just pump the brakes for sure. And if you did start it by searching Google or eBay or Amazon, you still should, you shouldn't be shopping unless you have some understanding of how you can really find the true website and how you could maybe call the company just to verify that that's their website before you make the purchase. You got to have family and friends or some sort of a network where if you're thinking about giving away personal information like a credit card or bank number or a social security number, or you're considering buying something or putting a down payment on something, using bank account money, using an app on your phone, don't do that until you've talked to others and just gotten some outside perspective. Often when you're in the middle of that scam, you have blinders on and you can't really perceive it. And that's That's just everybody. And so if you can get some outside perspective, sometimes they can say, are you sure this doesn't seem right, or this deal's too good? And that's often all that it takes. But it's not a one and done, Sashem. No one will be able to learn about scams today, feel good and confident that they can resist them today, and then not need to refresh themselves a month or 2 or 3 later. It's going to be an unending situation. The genie's not going back in the bottle on it.
Sadly and unfortunately, a scam has already been carried out. Money has already been paid. We've realized we found ourselves in that position. The advice for somebody who finds themselves there, and I know I talk about this often in stories that I do about this, is you've got to report it. It's difficult to admit that maybe you've fallen for something, but you've got to tell somebody. Who should they call first?
Scams on people age 60 and up are up 40% or more over the last couple years. That's every year. 40% 2 years ago, and then 40% again a year ago. This is according to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. And approximately 40% of seniors age 75 and over have experienced one tech-related scam. So again, it's like getting, a very expensive driving violation. No one really likes to admit they got pulled over for speeding, but it's going to happen eventually. Mm-hmm. And we're all going to get targeted at some point or another. And if possible, you have to put away that pride, because when you're in the middle of a scam, some scams are designed to keep stealing from you. It's not just a one and done. They're designed to keep you on the hook, right? And if you're on the hook and you don't ask for help because you're too embarrassed or too proud, you might get taken to the cleaners several times. You have to swallow your pride, go to your support network. If nobody else there can help you, contact your bank, contact the police. Both of those organizations want to help. Contact all major government agencies now, like Social Security and the Federal Trade Commission and the FCC. They all have scam departments designed to help educate and assist people if they're in the middle of a scam or they have been taken advantage of. It is now pretty common for agencies at the state and federal level to have people devoted to that, and you just gotta reach out and get help, because if you don't, you're not going to learn as well as you should, and you might get pinched a second time, and no one wants that to happen.
And so really, we talked about that point, the last point, the most, and that was that element of shame. Once you may have fallen for a scam, and this is not exclusive to anybody in any one age group, but you feel like a fool.
Yes.
And that's one of the things Lane kept saying is, don't let that stop you from getting help, for asking questions and trying to get resources as to what to do next, because you don't need to feel dumb or misinformed that you fell for something. These are sophisticated scams.
Yes, they are. And we've done stories on this repeatedly and taken calls from people who've said, you know what, never mind, I don't want to talk about it. But honestly, every time that we talk to either the BBB or a police officer, they say, no, please report it, so that maybe your neighbor, maybe your other loved one, maybe even your own family member doesn't fall for the same thing. Because unfortunately, once one person falls for it, they say, okay, this is a good number or a good email, and they're sharing it, and it could happen again.
That's right. We have to keep talking about it, get more people alert, aware. We don't want to live in a suspicious state, but you kind of have to these days, and question everything. You're protecting yourself.
All right, we'll be right back.
Your next chapter can be your most rewarding. Leading Later in Life is a program designed to help seniors grow, connect, and give back right here in Lucas County. You'll meet local leaders, build new friendships, explore meaningful volunteer opportunities, and enjoy exclusive tours of businesses and organizations, plus a guided look at the history that makes our community special. For more information, call or email the Area Office on Aging today. Scan the QR code to enroll now.
Well, in this week's Aging Untold, the ladies talked about mild cognitive slips.
That's right. It's an issue that a lot of people deal with as they age. But the bigger question becomes, how can you prevent that? Or how can you recognize when things are getting more serious?
Yeah, we have a lot of local resources out there that are available to help not only families, but spouses and you, if you might notice you're struggling with your memory loss or a recent dementia diagnosis. So I had a chance to talk with Pam Myers of the Alzheimer's Association of Ohio about some of the things that you or your spouse needs to look out for. Well, Pam, thanks for being here with us. There are a lot of people out there who are probably navigating what could be the really beginning stages of memory loss. So what are the first steps that people should take?
Well, hi, Christina. Thanks for having me. So I think that the first steps that people should take, if you're beginning to experience some memory loss, first of all, maybe track it a little bit to see if it's something that's just happening once in a short period of time, because we all have, we'll be somewhere, we'll forget somebody's name, we'll misplace something, and then we're able to find it. So it's really important to look and see if there's any kind of pattern to this memory loss to start with. And it's really important that we know that the earliest stages before people become really symptomatic with dementia, we call mild cognitive impairment. And in this stage, it's really important, if you begin to notice these patterns, usually the first thing that's affected is your memory. So you might have trouble remembering things that normally, people would remember, your kids' birthdays, anniversary, things like that are just more second nature. It's really important to get checked out with your healthcare provider so that they can, if they feel like there's any testing or workup that they need to do.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the fact that you should be keeping track of this. Are there any signs that spouses or maybe a loved one should consider, and what's a red flag?
I think probably one of the biggest red flags, again, I'm going to go back to the memory issue, because normally in mild cognitive impairment, what we see are problems with memory. So as a spouse, if my husband would forget, what day of the week it is, or maybe a long-standing reoccurring appointment, they lose a sense of direction. So we've been going to the same church for many years, or the same grocery store, or we're on our way over to our kid's house or our friend's house, and we get lost and we're not quite sure to remember how to get there. Those would definitely be some red flags for me as a spouse.
Okay, so circumstantial, based on what they know, maybe their favorite sports team, any of that type stuff. It's going to be different person by person. Okay.
Yep.
You talk about cognitive function. Are there any things that you can do to improve your cognitive function?
Well, great that you should ask that question. We just received last summer the results of the U.S. Pointer study, which was a very, very large-scale research study that basically, in a nutshell, Christina, demonstrated that folks who have a healthy diet, exercise regularly, do cognitive stimulating activities, keep busy, have an active social life, interact with folks, and also follow a more structured program, they're able to reduce their brain age to up to 2 years. So it's that lifestyle, those lifestyle choices are just super important as we begin to look at, how does this affect our ability to age without memory loss?
And I know that there are some people out there who might be aging and maybe they don't have that family anymore. They don't have that spouse. Are there activities that they can do on their own that are also going to help their brain health?
I think so. I think that, there's opportunity to get out and take a walk, do some exercise. A lot of folks play games, anything that is sequential and stimulates your mind and keeps your mind active, getting out and meeting people, maybe going out to lunch, any kind of those activities where there's other folks that you can have conversation with. All of those things are important to keep your brain active.
Sure. Now, if we're already at a stage for Alzheimer's or dementia, the diagnosis stage, how can the Alzheimer's Association help, whether that be just an individual or a family out there who might be navigating what is definitely uncharted water for a lot of people?
Great question, Christina. We have lots of resources for the individual living with dementia as well as their families and caregivers. I always start out with that we have a 24/7 helpline, because I think that is so important for people to know, especially caregivers who maybe are up in the middle of the night with their person and they're not really sure what to do, or what interventions maybe are necessary, and you can call our helpline day or night, 365 days a year. We offer all kinds of resources and consultation and just helping people through and answering any kind of questions they have. Here locally, we have caregiver support groups. We have programming for people living with dementia in the early stages. We also have a ton of education programs that talk about all different caregiver issues, but also programs that deal with, how do you have that healthy lifestyle? How do you take care of your brain? How do you reduce your risk for developing dementia later in life? So we have all kinds of resources that we have for folks, and we can also link people to other resources, because I always say, Christina, it takes a village. And so sometimes there are things that we can link people to that also can be a resource and help for them.
Well, and you talk about that helpline here. It's not like it's necessarily just clinical questions, right? Someone might simply be calling and saying, okay, I know this sounds weird, but what do I do?
Yes, absolutely. We get all kinds of wonderful questions. So sometimes people want to check on, they heard there was a support group, out in Defiance. So where does it meet? They can call and get those questions answered. And sometimes, Christina, I always say this because I get the pleasure and honor of working with families also. And sometimes people just need to talk to somebody they're not related to. And so the helpline can sometimes just provide some feedback, support, and just listen.
Sure, sure. Well, we really appreciate you being with us. Pam Myers, the Vice President of Programs with the Alzheimer's Association here in Ohio. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you, Christina.
So there are a lot of resources out there, and I think the best thing is to make that call. We heard Pam talk about the fact that a lot of times it's your spouse that's going to recognize things. She mentioned that, if your spouse doesn't know their favorite ball team anymore, that's a red flag. If maybe they eat the same thing for breakfast every morning and then all of a sudden they don't remember, that's another red flag. And it might not be something that someone that lives outside of your household would be able to notice. So that's where a spouse, or if you have a really close family member or friend, they're going to be the people that notice first, unfortunately.
Maybe your children, your caregivers.
Yes.
Really good points.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's a lot to take in there. And just a reminder too, the Alzheimer's Association, they have chapters all over and lots of resources out there. You can find links to those on our website.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Your next chapter can be your most rewarding. Leading Later in Life is a program designed to help seniors grow, connect, and give back right here in Lucas County. You'll meet local leaders, build new friendships, explore meaningful volunteer opportunities, and enjoy exclusive tours of businesses and organizations, plus a guided look at the history that makes our community special. For more information, call or email the Area Office on Aging today. Scan the QR code to enroll now.
Nearly half of all veterans are now 65 and older. Many of them face chronic medical conditions, mental health issues, and also social isolation.
But there is a nonprofit in Virginia. It's called Heroes Bridge, and it's working to change that by helping older vets enjoy a better quality of life. In this Aging Untold Extra, reporter Tisha Powell shows us how 3 imperfect pups are giving back to the veterans who've given so much.
Sorry for coming to make a visit.
Frankie boy, you behaving yourself?
He is.
If you want to make an older veteran smile, just show up.
And how's my little girl?
If you want to make them light up, bring the dogs. In Virginia, a nonprofit called Heroes Bridge brings rescue dogs into assisted living and rehab centers, a program they call Paw Patrol.
Oh, it's always nice to have company.
Many veterans are now in their later years, and some are facing a new fight: chronic health issues and social isolation. Aging Untold expert Sam Craddock says dogs can create an immediate sense of safety and a reason to engage even on hard days.
Dogs like that, they're a connecting point to your humanity again.
And it's not just emotional.
Your brain releases this feel-good hormones whenever something like that happens, and it literally does, it changes the way physiologically even your pain factors.
The dogs themselves are imperfect, rescues with their own stories, and they can make the connection even stronger.
I don't know what it is, but they're a friend. They really are.
For Sam, she understands the strong connection after taking in her mother's rescue dog when she passed.
I still feel very connected to my mom. I lost her 6 years ago, so having that actually helps me through the grief.
In a place where days can feel long, a few minutes with a dog can turn into something bigger: comfort, memory, and moments of joy that last.
Well, we were talking about life after retirement, and for a retired PE teacher named Janice Lang, life after education meant a new adventure, and she heard the call of the sea and she decided to answer.
So now Janice is teaching a sailing and leadership course that is designed specifically for women. We're checking back in with reporter Tisha Powell, who has this Aging Untold Extra out of Burlington, Vermont.
Monday morning on Lake Champlain.
What's your name?
And a handful of strangers converge.
So what's an advanced beginner?
That's the first day of Woman in the Wind, a week-long sailing course taught by Janice Lang at the Community Sailing Center in Burlington.
When I have an all-women class, I find that there's more teamwork.
The hope is by the end of the lesson, they'll have the skills to captain a sailboat.
Oh, nice. All these women have been on boats and been on boats with their husband or partner or somebody, but they haven't really sailed the boat much. They've mostly just sat there and followed directions.
Aging Untold expert Catherine Ambrose says doing something like this at any age can do a lot to build confidence.
She's really empowering those women that are taking her class. I would imagine it's possible that she's saving lives too. You know, if something were to happen to the person that's maneuvering the boat, it'd be great to be able to stand up and take over.
Oh, a little gust there. You're good, don't worry, don't worry.
A heart-pounding moment for these sailing students, but for 85-year-old Janice, it was a breeze. But life hasn't always been easy. She's had both hips and one knee replaced.
I mean, I'm glad I can do what I do.
You gotta love a super ager that's out there contributing and making a difference for people and keeping themselves sharp and strong at the same time. It's very inspiring, and it gives people hope for their future to not just give up and slow down, but can keep contributing, stay engaged, and do your thing.
Choppy waters, but it looks like smooth sailing.
Did everyone have a good time?
Oh, yeah. For these 5 women, now a team. Tisha Powell, 13 Action News.
So at the beginning of this stream, we talked about the fact that this is an interactive experience, and this is where you come in. We want to hear from you. Maybe you have questions about aging, or what do you wish that maybe you had been told prior to you getting to a certain age?
We are encouraging you to reach out to us, share those questions, send an email to aginguntold@13abc.com. You're seeing that email address right there. We'll make it accessible from the website. But think about it. What have you always wanted to know? Maybe you felt embarrassed to ask the question in person. Send it to us in email. We'll get you some answers.
For sure. And we would love to put that up there, whether you share your name or maybe you just want to send us your first name, depending on the topic here. Nothing is off the table. We really want to pull back the curtain and give you a resource here. And of course, watch Aging Untold throughout the week. See some of the topics that are discussed and then say, wait a second, I want to know more about that. And that's why we're here.
And another part of that is maybe you don't have a question, but you have something that you have experienced.
Yes.
You want to tell us about that. It's relevant to something we've already talked about or something we should talk more about. We are also looking for people to talk to in our community going through these things in real time. So send us your contact information. Tell us about your experiences, anything you want to share with other people who are in your community and beyond. And maybe we'll reach out to you, and that would be very helpful to others.
Absolutely. And we would love to hear those success stories too. We heard about Barbara and Janice, I think it was Janice who was out there, and she's, got a new lease in life, and she's exploring a passion. Are you older and you have a passion out there and you're doing something in the next chapter? we would love to feature you right here on Aging Untold Extra.
So the exciting thing is we're going to be with you every Friday at 10:30. You're going to be able to watch us wherever you stream 13 Action News. And every week we're going to have a new slate of topics, some things that'll be recurring because they are applicable, and there's other angles that we want to explore, and then some brand new things. So every day you're watching Aging Untold. After that, on Friday at 10:30, we want you to come here wherever you're streaming 13 Action News, and we're going to pick up the conversation from there.
I love that. Well, thanks for joining us here for Aging Untold Extra.
Aging Untold Extra, sponsored by Area Office on Aging of Northwest Ohio.